Hello all, welcome to Embedded Linux Learning Point, Linux from Scratch 11.1, episode 23. Okay, in this episode, let's start from chapter 10, Making the LFS System Portable. Introduction. It's time to make the LFS system portable. This chapter discusses creating etc fstab file, building a kernel from the new LFS system, and installing the GRUB bootloader so that the LFS system can be selected or for booting at script. Creating the etc fstab file. The etc fstab file is used by some programs to determine whether the file system are to be mounted by default, in which order, and which must be checked for integrity errors prior to mounting. Create a new file system table like this. Okay, I missed the F end of file. Okay, now it should work. Maybe I can just check cat etc fstab. Okay, it has information. This is dev, whatever the directory, and there it'll have defaults. Okay, it's a file system. It's a file system mount point. These are the mount points, and the type is boxes, fs, step, pts, temps, difference, and options. Default, it's the priority one. It's a dev swap, is a prior one. Okay, probably it is. Okay, let's see. Replace with the values appropriate for the system. For example, SCDA2, SDA5, and EXT4 for details on the 6 fields in this cman fs tab. Okay, now this is not correct. Okay, that's what I was wondering, what XX and YY are. Okay, file system with MS-DOS or Windows Origin, that is VFAT and NDFS, all this SM, BFS, CIFS, ISO 96960 UDF needs a special option UDF8 in order for non-ASCII character in file names to be interpreted properly. For non-UDF8 locals, the value of IO char set should be set to the same as the character set of the local, adjusted in such a way that the kernel understands it. It works if the relevant character set definition found under file system native language support when configuring the kernel has been compiled into the kernel or built as module. However, if character set of the local UTF-8, the corresponding option IO character set UTF-8 would make the file system case sensitive. To fix this, use the special option UTF-8 instead of IO's char set UTF equal to UTF-8 for UTF-8 locals. The, the code page option is also needed for VFAT and SMBFAT file systems. It should be set to the code page number used under MS-DOS in your country. For example, in order to mount a USB flash drive, use ru underscore ru.ko i8r. User would need the following in the options portion of its mount line in etc fstab. Okay, in this mount point. The corresponding options fragment for RU UTF-8 users is okay. These options. Note that using IO character set is the default for ISO 8859-1, which keeps the file system case sensitive and the UTF-8 option tells the kernel to convert the file names using UTF-8 so they can be interpreted in UTF-8 local. It is also possible to specify default code page and IO char set values for some file systems during kernel configuration. The relevant parameters are named default NLS options, config NLS default remote NLS option, config SMB NLS default code page for FAT, config FAT default code page, and default IO character set for FAT, config FAT default IO character set. There is no way to specify these settings for the NTFS system at kernel compilation time. It is possible to make ext3 file system reliable across power failures for some hard disk types. To do this, add BARR barrier equal to 1 mount option to the appropriate entry in etc LFS tab. To check if the disk drive supports this option, use HD map on the applicable disk drive. For example, if HD param-i, okay, this is the command, returns non-empty output, the option is supported. Use the logical volume management LVM based partitions can use the barrier option. Okay, let's correct this fstab. So what I do is I refer the host system's fstab here, etc fstab. Okay, here you can see I have only the file system is this was on dev STFI during installation. This is the ID ext4. Mod point type options dump and pass. Dump fs disk order options 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, fs disk order. I don't have such option in the host systems. Oh, this thing, what do we call? Okay, it's there. The order is there. It's just the pass. It means the file system is this. Okay, for example, if I see the dev STB1, then the mount 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, the etcfs static file system information use BLK ID to print the universally unique identifier for a device. I'll just see the BLK here. Block ID. Okay, this is the STA5 UID type 64. Okay, let me check how many. Okay, how do I do it? Let me go. Well, something went wrong during the mm, recording. So basically, I have created the etc fstab file here with, if you see the options, I would say cat etc fstab. Okay, here the xy values are stb1 and stb2, and it is an ext4 system. Okay, that's that's the thing. And I have to find out what is that we're going to use is that I did run the ls block I sorry, not the block id, ls block, to find out which are the things that which are the disks that I can use, which I'm using for the LFS. I'm using STB1 for primary mode LFS and the STB2 as a swap partition. And if you see the LSB with F option, you'll be able to see the file system. So STB1 is ext4 and STB2 is a swap file system. So that information I have updated and added to the etc fstab file. That's, yeah, this is what is this STB1, STB2, and ext4. Okay, the next thing what I've done is I have run the make improper to clean the source tree, and then the make menu config with the lang host option. But I ran into an error because when I ran this, uh, the size of the terminal was not big enough, so it threw that your display is too small to run menu config. It must be at least 19 lines by 80 columns. I think my columns were small. Let's run it again. Yes, now it is fine. Okay, and then there are some instructions. Here, be sure to enable or disable or set the following features on the system. So the first thing is general. Go to setup and then enable this. I need to enable kernel headers through this. General setup. Let's go inside and then kernel compression. No. Enable kernel headers through sys config headers. General setup and then okay, this is not ticked. Okay, it should be like this. You need to untick it. Then need to go device drivers, graphics support, frame buffers, support for frame buffer devices. Then need to come back. How do I come back? Exit. Then need to come to device drivers. And then it's hard to navigate. That's fine. Graphic support frame buffers. Graphic support. Generic rapid. Graphic support. Then you have the frame buffers. Where is the frame buffer? Frame buffer devices. Support for frame buffer devices. I need to enable it. Okay. To enable that, what I have to enable or disable, I need to push tab. Okay. The second tab, so not the tab, spacebar. I have this star. That means it's ticked. Then press the tab to exit, to come to this lower menu, and press exit. Enter the exit. Then generic driver options. Then let's go to generic driver options. So again, come and exit. Generic driver options. Enter. Then we have something called support for event helper. Support for event helper. Yes, it is unticked. That's fine. And maintain a dev temp fs. So maintain dev temp fs file system to mount a dev. Okay, this is fine. These things are already set. Exit. So press devices, modern host interface. Yes, okay, that's fine. Let's not get into this right now. Exit. So you can see there are a lot of configuration options. Network device support, network device card support. There are a lot of things. Virtual LAN, generic network virtualization, network console, virtual Ethernet pair device, Ethernet. Okay, let's not get into this. Okay, so now that we have this, let's see if he recommends support for user helper. Having this option set may interfere with the device management when using UDEV. Okay, so we have unset it. Maintain and develop this dev temp fs. This will create automated device nodes which are populated by the kernel even without UDEV running. UDEV then runs on top of this manage permissions and adding symlinks. This configuration item is required for all users of UDEV or EUDEV. Okay, alternately make all config may be more appropriate in some situations. See readme file for more information. If desired, skip kernel configuration by copying the kernel config file from the host system, assuming it is available, to the unpacked Linux directory. However, we do not recommend this option. It is often better to explore all the configuration menus and create a kernel configuration from scratch. Compile the kernel image and modules. Okay, now that. So there are a lot of I2C support. I2C is the bus I2C core debugging messages. I2C algorithm debugging message, I2C bus debugging message. Okay, I2C support. Let's select for I2C support, I2C device interface, I2C bus. Okay, let's not get into this now because when I build for a bread system or BeagleBone in the future, I will look for anything that needs to be built. Then GPU support. Okay, board level resetter power off, power supply class. See, there are so many configurations. I mean, it's really big, I would say. Sony memory stick card support, virtualization driver, Virtual drivers, VIP host, Microsoft Hyper-V guest support, Hyper support or acquisition support. Okay. Clock source driver, mail, remote device, generic, dynamic voltage and frequency scaling support. Okay. We'll save it in the config. Okay, it's written exit. We save it. Okay. Now that we have done the configuration, config is saved. I think it should be part of the ls cat dot config. So it's a big file. So we just says the set yes or no and things like that. That's fine. Now let's make, though it will take J4. It'll take more time. Let's see. Hopefully we will be able to build this. Using kernel, okay. If using kernel modules, module configuration etc mod probe D may be required. Information pertaining to modules and kernel configuration is located in this. And the kernel documentation in Linux. Also, mod probe D5 may be of interest. Unless module support has been disabled in the kernel configuration, install the modules with make module install. I think by default it will be enabled unless module support has been disabled. So we have not disabled it. So I think by default it will be enabled. After kernel compilation is complete, additional steps are required to complete the installation. Some files need to be copied to the boot directory. Caution: if the host system has a separate boot partition, the files copied below should go there. The easiest way to do is that to bind boot in the host outside chroot to mount LFS boot before proceeding as the root user in the host system. Okay, so we're going to mix up the host and the LFS system. Okay, now let's wait, compile the kernel image and okay, let's wait until the compilation is done. Well, now that the kernel is built, since we have uh, the module support is not disabled, so I'll not run this command. Next is the caution: if the host system has a separate boot partition, the files copied below should go there. The easiest way to find that is they bind boot on the host outside chroot to mount LFS boot before proceeding. So let's check this part. Do we have ls? Okay, we have it. Basically ls. Here we have the boot. Where's boot? Sorry, yeah, it's here. Okay, so we're gonna mount. We're gonna bind. The easiest way to do is to, if the host system has a separate boot partition, the files copied below should go there. This is a boot partition. It's just a directory. Let me check. Does it have boot partition? lsplk boot. Okay, sta1, sta2, and sta5 is 99 GB. Okay, that's fine. Hmm. Okay, it's a mount point. Is this okay? That's fine. Don't think so. I have a boot partition separated here. After current compilation is complete, additional steps are required to complete the installation. Some files need to be copied to the boot directory. Okay, the path to the kernel image may vary depending on the platform being used. The file names below can be changed to suit your taste, but the system of the file name should be VM Linux to be compatible with the automatic setup of the boot process described in the next section. Okay, let's do this. Okay, the system.map is symbol file for the kernel. It maps functions entry point of every function in the kernel API as well as addresses of the kernel data structure for running kernel. It is used as a source when investigating kernel problems. Issue the following command to install the map file. This is where the addresses of the functions remain and we install it. The kernel configuration file .config produced by the make menu config step above contains all the configuration selection for the kernel that was just compiled. It's good idea to keep that file in the future reference. Okay. Install the documentation for the kernel with this command. Disappear or documentation. Recursively copy everything to where the documentation exists. It is important to note that the files in kernel source directory are not owned by root. However, a package is unpacked as root, like we did inside chroot. The files have the user group IDs of whatever they were on a package's computer. This is usually not a problem for any other package to be installed because the source tree is removed after installation. However, the Linux source tree is often retained for a long time. Because of this, there is a chance that whatever user ID or package here used will be assigned to somebody on the machine. The person would then have write access to the kernel source. Note in many cases, the configuration of the kernel will need to be updated for packages that will be installed in BLFS. Unlike other packages, it isn't necessary to remove the kernel source tree after a newly built kernel is installed. If the kernel source tree is going to be retained, run -r00 on Linux directory to ensure all files are owned by the root user. I will do this. So I'm going to retain this on the source directory of the, okay, this is the source tree. Paste. What on the Linux directory? Okay, this is the current directory. Okay, some kernel documentation recommends creating a symlink from user source Linux pointed to the kernel source directory. This is specific to kernel prior to 2.6 series and must not be created on LFS system, as it can cause problems for packages you may wish to build once your base LFS system is complete. Warning: the headers in the file system's include directory user include should always be the ones against which this libc was compiled. That is, that sanitizes headers installed in section 5.4. Therefore, they should never be replaced by either raw kernel headers or any other kernel sanitized headers. Okay. Configuring kernel module load order. Okay. Most of the time, Linux modules are loaded automatically, but sometimes it needs some specific direction. The program that loads modules modprober insmod uses etc modprober.d usb.conf. For this purpose, this file needs to be created so that if USB drivers have been built as modules, they will be loaded in correct order. EHICHCD needs to be loaded prior to OS. Okay, this is basically the order to avoid warning being output at boot time. Create a new file etc modprobe.d.usb.conf by running the following command. Basically here we just providing uh, order of the boot module order to load. Contents of Linux. Okay, these are all the mm, uh, what it contains. Config contains all the configuration selections for the kernel. VMList LFS 11.0, the engine of the Linux system. When turning on the computer, the kernel is the first part of the operating system that gets loaded. It detects and initializes all components of the computer's hardware, then makes these components available as a tree of files to the software and turns a single CPU into a multitasking machine capable of running scores of programs seemingly at the same time. System.map, the address of symbols, it maps the entry point and address of all functions and data structure in kernel. Using GRUB to set up the boot process. Note: if your system has UEFI support and you wish to boot LFS with you should skip this page and configure GRUB with UEFI support provided in the BLFS package. It's fine. We're going to do with normal. Uh, I don't know if I think the US support is not there. My system. Warning: configuring GRUB incorrectly can render your system inoperable without an alternate boot device such as CD-ROM or bootable USB drive. This action is not required to boot your LFS system. You may just want to modify your current boot. Load example grub legacy grub2 or lilo. Ensure that an emergency boot disk is ready to rescue the computer of the computer becomes unusable, unbootable. If you do not already have a boot device, you can create one. In order for the procedure below to work, you need to jump ahead to BLFS and install. Okay, LCD to temp, then grub. Okay, because I don't have it. If you do not already have a boot device, you can create one. I'm not going to skip this. You need to jump ahead to BLFS and install Xsource from the device. I'm not going to do that. I will do with normal grub configuration. Grub naming conventions. Grub uses its own naming structure for drivers and partitions in the form of HDN, M, where N is the hard drive number and M is the partition number. The hard drive number starts from 0, but the partition numbers starts from 1 from normal partitions and 5 for extended partitions. Note that this is different from earlier versions where both numbers started from 0. For example, partition STB1 is HD01 to grub, STB3 is HD1.3. In contrast to Linux, grub does not consider CD-ROM drives to be hard drives. For example, if you're using a CD on HDB and a second hard drive on HDC, the second hard drive would still be HD1. Okay. Setting up the configuration. Okay, this is very important. Setting up configuration. Grub works by writing data to first physical track of the hard disk. This area is not part of any file system. The programs there access grub module in boot partition. The default location is boot grub. The location of the boot partition is a choice of the user that affects the configuration. One recommendation is to have a separate small suggested 620 MB partition just for boot information. That's why each build, whether LFS or some commercial distro, can access the same root, so same boot files, and access has been made from any booted system. If you choose to do this, you will need to mount a separate partition, move all files in the current boot directory, example Linux kernel you just built in the previous section to the new partition. You will then need to unmount the partition and remount it as a boot. If you do this, to be sure to update etc fstab. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to do this. Using current LFS partition will also work, but configuration of multiple system is more difficult. Okay, using the above, because for me I have two disks. See, ST and STB. STB is where I have LFS. Probably I need to configure to boot from STB. Let's see how to do it. Install the grub info files into boot grub and then set up the boot track. Well, using the current FS, okay, LFS partition will also work, but configuration of the multiple system is more difficult. Using the information, determine the appropriate designator for the root partition or boot partition if a separate one is used. For the following example, it is assumed that the root or separate boot partition is STA2. Yes, that's what I think. But I think what we have STB2, STB1. This is where it becomes a little tricky. Grub install on the STA1. If you see this, whatever the file system I have is ST. LSBLK with F. STA1 is STA1 is VFAT, and this is boot EFI. STA2, STA5 is ext4. It's where all my files exist in the host. STB1 ext4. This is where all my files are. This is residing now. Let's go ahead and try to see if I can boot with STB1, because in mount LFS, this is the root for us now. How was it done? The STA, because STA contains my host directory, so I'll do an STB. Grub install dev STA. Because if you see, what we have done is cat etc fstab. So here it has STB ext4 and then the swap. Here we don't have any boot, so I think I need to do everything with STB1. That's fine. So what I do is install grub into the STB, installing for i36 PC platform. Really? If the system has been booted using EFI, grub install will try to install files for the x86-64 EFI target, but these files have not been installed in chapter 8. This is the case add target to the command. Okay, now if you see, the target is i386 PC, and this is the correct one that is working. Cannot find the device for boot grub. Is dev mounted? Okay, let's see how do I solve this issue. Cannot find the device for boot grub, so that means the mount point, the boot grub is not there here. That is the problem. Probably I need to create one more partition here. Similar to the one that is here. Okay, this is the boot. So 500. Okay, how do I create a partition? So I'll just have to create one more partition from STB1. and then update it. I think it's the best time for me to take a backup of this system because I don't want to lose whatever I have done. I think it'll take some time. Well, I have taken the backup basically. Now let's resume what we were doing. Okay, so what I was interested is to create one more partition in STB and make it a boot partition. Simple. Okay, something like this. Okay, let's do it. Partition disk. Partition in Linux. Okay. Okay, create disk partition Linux. Blah 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 blah. List the partitions using the parted -L command. Refer the storage, that's fine. Okay, sudo parted 1L. So okay. Okay, we have this. So the disk flags. This is a boot flag. Okay, this is a primary partition. And you have the ext4. This is for the STB. This is where I want to create one more partition as a boot and mount it somewhere. Sorry, mount it on the /boot. Okay, and how this works, sudo parted dev vtc gnu parted using welcome to gnu parted blah blah blah. Set the partition table type to gpt, then enter yes. I think I was using one utility, which is that. I think I was using fdisk. Fdisk command. Where is the fdisk? Okay. Fdisk command. Okay, this is something sudo fdisk l. This is I am familiar with. Okay, so in case something like this. Okay, it's similar information. type, size, factor, and okay, it's bootable. Okay, I need to create one more boot. Create a new partition. 2 plus GB type 2 GB. Okay, that's fine. So how to create a new partition? So I will have to sudo fdisk stb. Okay, m is a command. Change will remain whatever. Create what it says. Changes will remain until you decide to write them. Be careful before using the write command. M for help. That's okay. I want help right now. I have somebody helping here. Run the n command to create new partition. I will put n. The partition number 3 to default is 3 because I've already consumed 1 and 2. I will use third partition. After that, you asked for a starting and ending sector of your hard disk. It is best type default numbers in this section. Okay, the default is 3. I will enter 3. No free sectors available. Delete the partition list of free partition space. Okay. Unpartitioned space is this. Add a new partition parent. Change the partition type. Verify the partition table. Delete a partition. So what I'll do is I'll delete partition number. Default is 2 because I want to delete the swap partition. Partition 2 was deleted and create a new partition. Okay. Okay, so all I want is how much space I need. So 512 MB, that means 512 M. Let's go to here. The best default number in this. The last prompt is related to size of partition. Okay, this is this. Select. Okay, plus 512 M. Please, I want. Created a new partition. Okay. Signature. Yes. Remote. So now we will just print the information about the partitions. Okay, and again we will create a new partition. Yes, yes. Okay, well, the whole thing is fine. Of type Linux file system. GB, that's fine. Create a new partition of 3. How do we edit? Change the partition type. Let's say T. Okay, type list all types. Type L to list all types. Oh God. Okay, all that I need is BIOS boot. I need Linux boot. Okay, it's Linux root. It's not Linux swap. Yeah. It's 19 Linux swap. I need to make it Linux swap. Type is 19. I want to make Linux swap. Change type of partition is Linux files to Linux swap. Okay, that's great. And then how to write. To write the to run the W command. Let's write it. Partition has been altered. Then you do. Okay, you can see here. The type is this. STB3 is a swap. STB2 is Linux file system. I need to make it bootable file system. How to make a partition bootable? How to make Linux? Partition. Primary partition contains the bootloader, whatever. Boot partition. Okay, I think I need more space for boot. I think I made a mistake. Sudo fdisk. Press M here for help. Delete the partition. Yes, I delete it. Delete the partition. Yes, we deleted it. Then a new partition. All I want is around 4 GBs plus 4 GB. No. That's fine. And plus 4G. So what I need new partition created of type Linux. That's fine. We'll change it. Boot and again a new partition 3. The selector is fine and it's also fine. Then it's going to give some information. Then we write it. Okay. You see, this is going to be fine. So now I need to change one to swap and to Linux. So this disk. Then let's go here. We need to change the type. Partition number is 1 to 3. I'm going to change it to type. So list. So Linux swap. I want it to be Linux swap. Partition type. Number type L to list all. So Linux swap. Then the okay. Let me first What do we have for Linux boot? Windows, Microsoft, Linux app, Linux file system, server data. Okay, I'll make it Linux swap. So that means the number is 19. Q, then the 19. Okay, then you write it. Okay, then C. Okay, Linux swap is done. For the bootable, I need to type to W92 FAT32. Okay, need to change the type. Default is 3001 type. Okay, let's see. Or here I need to make Microsoft FAT32. Okay, where I wear Sony Lever Power 1 Microsoft Reserved Basic. Solaris where okay, let's see. I will exit. All it has Linux file system 20. Then write it. Okay, I will use CF disk. This is much more easy to use. So then I have to choose the type here. Type is Intel BIOS. We'll escape. Don't know. Help right. So probably I need to partition. It says type. Type Linux swap. Server data x86 Microsoft. Great. So all I can do is quit. Let's see what's in STA. And yes, W95 FAT32 extended and Linux. So just Linux. STB swap is fine. This is what I want to make. Oh, sorry. To be size. Let's say, oh no. Oh, deleted it. Oh, good. Hmm. If disk ifan. CF disk FTP. Okay, it's not empty. STB3, STB2, Linux swap is fine. Help, what help I need? Toggle bootable flags. Okay, B. Just pressing the B. Toggle bootable flag of the current position. Okay, let me see. CF disk versus based file system. Let's go to delete and block device command. Use whatever all the commands can be entered with either upper or lower case letter except for right. Upper arrow, down arrow displays extra information about the partition. Press a key to continue. Type is extended boot. Okay, I don't know why it is extended boot. Linux server data root. Why the type is not changed? Even though I press boot, it's not becoming bootable. Set boot flag. Set boot flag on boot flag Linux partition. Partition Linux. Okay. How to set up change boot partition flag on Linux. Bootable flag on partition is enabled now. The next will be asked to select the partition number, enter the selection. Okay, enter A to okay. The utility they are using is FS disk. this disk STB, then A is for changing the unknown command. This is strange. M for help. D is for delete partition list free. Add a new partition where extra functionality script, save, exit, create. Delete a partition list free, update this list unknown partition type, add a new partition, print, change partition type, verify the partition table. Okay, that's not good. So let quit. How to exit this? Quit to exit. Okay. Anyways, I hope. I don't know how to proceed now. Bootable flag partition is not on. Cannot find a device for boot grub. So here is STB. Let's see. Okay, probably I need to give STB3 here because I want to make that as it is not working. What I would do is I would make this one configuring grub. Okay, this is bad. So what I will do is how do I enlarge this? Okay, fine. This is done. Okay, this I need to some kind of okay, not this. Cannot find the device for boot grub. Is device mounted? Why it is saying so? Configuring grub incorrectly can render your system. Yeah, that's understood. If the host system has a separate boot partition, the files copied below should go there. The easiest way to do that is to bind boot in the host outside chroot. Let me do this. With this, maybe this gets solved. Okay, and the path to the kernel image may vary depending on this. Now let's do all this. It's already there, but let's do it. Okay, I need to cd2 sources, cd2 Linux. Okay, here I have it. Okay, then cp because I'm just trying to make sure that everything is installed correctly after changing the mount, uh, after binding the mount to the virtual machine, the host. Okay, and then kernel documentation. This is fine. Let's see if this file is there or not. Okay, contents of Linux is fine. ls cat etc fstab. Here stb1. Okay, I understood. This is where the programs contain, and that's where the boot. Mm, let's see. I don't know. Okay, grub configuration file. Yes, we have created the grub configuration file. I think I need to install an STA only. is the most tricky part in this. Let's see. Because in the host, the bootable is only STA. Cannot find a device for boot grub. Is dev mounted? Hmm. Okay, got it. Okay, then here I need to dev temp fs is dev. It has become dev. What I need to do is dev stb2 stb3. Then you have this dev. So 64 defaults. Defaults 1 1 and 1. Okay, escape, go to wq stb. Okay, grab install this stb. Because we don't have dev temp fs. I think mount point is dev, so that's why dev is not mounted. Now I think it will be mounted. Cannot find device for boot grub. Is dev mounted? Yes. Boot root service temp. Okay. System. Hmm. Can you LFS disk request disk? Hmm. Let's see. Let's do some Google searching and find out if we can find something. Error cannot find device grub dev mounted, whatever. Trying to reinstall group 2, can't find a device. So let's see if they have some solution. I have no idea if my solution will apply to you, to anyone. Okay, mount ch root mount. I did the following, which I'm trying from memory, so it was basically I need to mount device. Mount. Device does not exist. Special device. Okay. Mm. Chroot. No. Mount dev. It's difficult. How can I run update grub on ch root file system? but it's simple as mounting the to get full environment. Just sudo chroot media flash drive mount proc mount sys mount dev. Just mount dev. Dev cannot find an etc fstab. Mount dev stp 3. In case you have separate boot partition, mount boot. See, this is the file system point option dump. Okay. Mount. Let me just mount proc. Okay. Dev stp3 st etc fstab. So cat etc fstab order dev need to add. Hold on, let me not change it. Dev temp fs 0. Fstab. Do I have fstab? Command utility is not there. fstab. Here's fstab. Okay, proxies. Cannot find the mount and fstab mounted. So that means is it visible here? Okay, now I understood. So sudo mount stp3 to LFS mount LFS. Okay, let's do this now. Mount -dev. Now it is mounted. Now let's run the grub install stp3. Okay, there is an issue. So install unable to identify file system in host. Okay. Now I understood. Ideally, if you want to find a file system, I need to do for the stb. Well, where is basically I need to find out. Okay, ls Okay, STB1, you're exposing the whole thing to dev. It's not the right way of doing it. Maybe, I don't know. LFS, mount LFS to dev. Let's install in the STB1 itself. STB1 contains the whole Linux file systems. Canonical path. Okay, the error failed to get canonical path to SDA5. Why? Now I understood. The problem is we need to install or mount the dev in the SDA. The LFS dev SDA1 is where okay, unmount. How do I unmount something? Because the LFS so to unmount so the mount A, remounting it's fine. Mounting an ISO image, exploring ISO, unmounting. Sudo unmount. Seriously. Unmount with one. Sudo apt get star unmount. Hopefully. Does it have something? Unable to locate unmount. It doesn't have. Very bad. How to unmount What is unmount? Umount. Oh, umount. That is not unmount. What a shame. Okay. Umount. Then STB3 also. I'll umount it. STB. Let's see. Okay, nothing is mounted now. Then mount STB3. Dev STB2 dev. Okay, where? STB3, then STB1. The whole STB1. We put it. Wait. STB2, STB1. So STB1 to the dev. Okay. And let's see if it works. The grub install to STB3. Sorry, it is supposed to be STB1. Okay, failed to get canonical path. So maybe it is because actually STF5 is the bootable drive for the host. So probably this is not done well. I mean, the boot device, this mount. First, we do have LFS boot. Let's check it. It's there. That's fine. Okay. Now it is. We're going to bind this boot with the LFS boot. Now let's just ls boot what it has. Okay, and here also let's do an ls of boot. Okay, so here it just has only this one. Map configuration, VM, Linux, everything is here. So, okay, here Okay, here also we have, oh sorry, everything is there. Maybe now it is fine. And if we see fstab cat etc fstab of this, it has complete information about the boot. The boot EFI was an the SDA1 during installation. Swap file is fine. SDB1. Okay. Now that it is available, now let's see what happens. Now I need to run on this STB. Install STB or not on a specific. Let's see. It can find something on the boot drive. So boot directory. Okay, GRUB install error. Failed to get canonical path of dev SDA5. What is there in SDA5? Sudo fs disk f1l sorry dev SDA. This list. Okay, in this is SDA1 is bootable, SDA5 is it's Linux. It contains SDA5 has the okay failed to get canonical path. SDA5. Why is this? fstab SDA5. Do we have etc fstab? This is the ID for the boot. Then STB1 is mount LFS. This is fine. Ext40, that's okay. Do you think I need to add the STB1 for mount LFS? Then you have boot. Okay, here I'm going to copy the whole thing and it's a read-only file. Oh, okay. Quit without saving changes. Sudo vi fstab. And use the vim. Let's go to the last line, end of it, and then append slash dev sta1 a5 basically, then to mnt LFS dev 64 tf defaults, then I'll go with 1, then ext4, 1. Okay. Okay, the following command will override the current bootloader. So I don't want to add that. So I will delete this thing. Okay. The location of the boot partition is a choice of the user. affects the configuration. One recommendation is to have a separate small suggested size of 200 MB partition just for boot information. That's why each build, whether LFS or commercial distro, can access the same boot file. Access can be made from the etc fstab. Create a GRUB configuration file. Let's just create and let's see what happens. It's not okay, xt2. GRUB is an extremely powerful program and it provides a tremendous number of options for booting from a wide variety of devices, operating systems, and partition types. There are also many options to customize, such as graphical, splash screens, playing, whatever. It's fine. There is a command grub make config can write a configuration file automatically. It uses a set of scripts in etc grub and will destroy any customization that you make. These scripts are designed primarily for non-source distribution and are not recommended for like that's fine. Now, well done, our system is installed. Is it installed? Let's see. CD. Okay. LS. So we have LMS, LFS, the boot is there. I am doubtful of the grub. So ls boot grub config. Okay, everything is there here. Let's see. Echo 11.1 to get LFS etc LFS release. Paste this. It may also read okay release file two files describing the installed system may be used for a package that can be installed on the system later, either in binary form or by building them. The first one is shows the status of basically the end we're trying to finish and launch boot the system. To create this file, run this distribution and all this. That's fine. You paste here Linux from scratch. I'll just put my name here. PS. No, I'll just say embedded Linux. Embedded Linux. That's good. The second one contains roughly the same information that is used by stream, systemd, and graphical desktop environments to create this. Okay. OS release is LFS. I would say ELP. Okay. Be sure to put some sort of customization for the fields. Version code name to make system uniquely used. Now that we have built the system, let's try rebooting it. Now that all the software has been installed, it's time to reboot your computer. However, you should be aware of a few things. The system you have created in this book is quite minimal and most likely will not have the functionality you would need to be able to continue forward. By installing a few extra packages from the BLFS book while still in our current chroot environment, we can live okay. environment, you can leave yourself in a much better position to continue as once you boot your computer into your new LFS installation. Here are some suggestions. Okay, these are the things uh, that he's suggesting it to add. That's okay. That's not the point here. I just wanted to boot, and if I am able to see, able to enter some commands, that's a success for me. That's fine. Finally, a review of the following configuration file is appropriate at this point. That's fine. Now that we have said that, let's move on booting our shiny new LFS installation for the first time. First, exit from chroot environment. Okay, we're going to unmount LFS. That's okay. Dev PTS. Okay, I need to do sudo. Oh, sudo umount. Okay, and then unmount the run. Proc. Then you have the sys. If multiple partitions were created, unmount other partitions before unmounting the main one. Then unmount user. Then the home. I think we have not created. Then unmount the LFS. Probably it's used here. So now let me exit this terminal. Okay, you need to exit. Then sudo umount v LFS. Probably no, unmount. Still the target SPC exit. Okay. Sudo umount v FS. Why the target is busy? Let's do this. Shut down F1 or now. It's a reboot or means a reboot. Hopefully we will have something coming up for the Linux is okay. I think grub is not found. Hmm. Grub rescue. The ls hd0 mod 5. Okay, I think entering rescue mode, then cd2 hd1. Boot grub i36386 pc normal dot mode not found. Entering rescue mode. I don't know what's happening with the grub. How do I exit? Control C. Well, now system has gone for a toss. HD0, HD, LS, HD0. Invalid name. Quit. Just Q. Just E. XIT. Okay, now that system has crashed or got into some problem. Yeah, that's it for this episode. Probably since I have a backup of of my of the virtual machine before starting working with grub, maybe I'll in the from the next episode I will start from that point on. Hopefully we'll be able to resolve issues and then boot the LFS successfully. Anyways, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode. Hopefully we will have a successful LFS boot. Thanks for watching.